Hello there, and welcome to Unqualified Opinions. I'm Marko
And I'm Will Byerman.
And on today's video, we're going to be doing our NBA Western Conference All-Star predictions. But before we begin, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave your own unqualified opinions in the comment section down below. So Will, I'll throw it to you with your Western Conference All-Star starters.
I mean, for point guard, or I guess it's just the two guard spots now, but I'll take Steph Curry first. Absolutely amazing year back from injury there, looking as good as ever. Second, I'll take my guy Luka Doncic. The Mavericks have been struggling, as we said in our previous video, which you should totally check out if you have not done that yet. Mavs have struggled. Luka has not. He's having a great season. Easy all-star starter. Then LeBron and Kawhi, both, of course, are, as always, just pretty dominant guys. They deserve those spots. And then Nikola Jokic, who has firmly entrenched himself in the MVP race, is going to be my last starter for the West Conference.
All right, so for my Western Conference starters, I also went with Steph Curry, who's averaging 29, almost 30 points a game, 6 assists and 5.5 rebounds, 46% from the field. He's carrying Golden State without Klay Thompson. Next at the other guard spot, I also went with Luka Doncic, who's single-handedly carrying a very poor Mavericks team. He's got 28 points, 9.5 assists, and 8.8 rebounds on the season. And then at the forward spots, I went with Kawhi Leonard and LeBron James, who are both doing very well for each of the Los Angeles teams. And then at center, I went with Nikola Jokic, who seems to be by far, in my opinion, the best center not only in the Western Conference, but in the NBA.
Agreed.
So, Will, who are your reserves and wild cards for the Western Conference?
So my first reserve guard's going to be Dame Lillard, who's averaging 29 points, 7 assists, also shooting 94% from free throw, which is a phenomenal mark. That's a really easy one. Then for my other one, I'll take Donovan Mitchell. The Jazz, I mean, I do believe you reward good teams. You reward the best teams with multiple All-Stars if they have the credentials. Spida absolutely does. 24 points, 5 assists, and, you know, he's working just on becoming a better passer, rebounder, all facets of the game there. You got playoff P. I'll give Paul George some love. He's very well documented now for his struggles in the bubble there, but he's been absolutely great so far this season, so I'll give him some love there. I'll take Anthony Davis as a forward there. You can make an argument that he hasn't had as big of a season this year. Jokic and Embiid have made him look. I've kind of kept him out of the main discussion. I wouldn't say he's an all-star starter, but it's Anthony Davis. You know, he's just going to be killing it every night. And then I'll take Rudy Gobert. Offense, still not there, but defensively, he's as good as ever. And for my reserves, Devin Booker, shooting lights out as always, really improving with Chris Paul to kind of help him there off the ball. But he's really kind of came along as a distributor as well. And lastly, I'll give Mike Conley, one of the best players in recent memory without an All-Star appearance. I'll give him a nod there. So that's who I got for the Western Reserves, Marco.
So for my Western Reserves, firstly at guard, I have Damian Lillard, who you mentioned, having yet another career year, almost 30 points, 7 assists, and has Portland firmly entrenched in the playoff race, a team that's probably going to be a lower tier playoff team, maybe 5 or 6, or it has to be one of the play-in teams at 7 and 8. My other reserve guard is Donovan Mitchell, who's helping lead the Utah Jazz to first in the Western Conference. And as we discussed in our Utah Jazz video, which I'll link in the description below, a phenomenal performance so far this year. And then at my reserve forwards, I have Paul George and Anthony Davis, again, both from the LA teams respectively. I think Paul George is actually having a better season. Anthony Davis is more here. I mean, Anthony Davis has had a decent season, missed a couple of games because of some nagging injuries, still 22 points, 3 assists, and almost 9 rebounds a game, so not anything too bad, but those two guys are more consistently here because of the standings they've brought their team, the records their team has. And then at center, also another guy from Utah. I've got Rudy Gobert, who's probably the second best center pretty easily in the West, obviously behind Nikola Jokic. Then at my 2 wildcard spots, these are the 2 spots that I labored over the most. There were plenty of guys, either at guard, forward, or even center that you could have put here, but I think I decided on Devin Booker and CJ McCollum as my 2 wildcards, 2 guys that would be making their first ever All-Star appearances, I should say. and deservedly so, especially Devin Booker finally going to get the Phoenix Suns into the playoffs, or at least into the playoffs without needing to be a play-in, and then CJ McCollum continuing to help Portland be a consistent playoff team year over year. So, Will, before we end the video, I just want to break down maybe a couple guys in the West, maybe not on our list, but on the final list of the All-Stars, guys that will be most likely snubbed, in your opinion.
I want to talk about Christian Wood for sure. I mean, he kind of made some waves.
Yeah, he could probably be snubbed.
I think he's going to be snubbed
on our list.
But he's had a really great season.
I think Devin Booker might get snubbed, but I think CJ McCollum is more likely to get snubbed than Devin Booker.
So both of our last two guys, McCollum and Conley, are pretty likely to be snubbed. I mean, the NBA is going to do their best to get Zion Williamson in.
Absolutely.
And to be fair,
maybe even Brandon Ingram, though.
And to be fair, Zion's had a good season.
But Brandon Ingram, I think, has had a better season, for sure.
I think the NBA would rather see those guys in, but I think that McCollum and Conley are both easily the more deserving choices.
And one last guy I'd like to mention who was snubbed on both of our lists, and just because of how his team is playing and the fact that he's not at a Luka level. And if you want to look at our at the Mavericks struggles, I'll link another video in the description down below where we talk about why the Dallas Mavericks are playing so poorly. But another guy whose team is playing poorly, but he's not getting the same recognition, is De'Aaron Fox.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Even though I've got his stats pulled up here, I mean, 23.5 points per game, almost 7 assists, 3.5 rebounds. He's not shooting the best, but he's one of the most athletic and versatile players in the NBA. So I think that's another snub that you could be looking at there in the West.
Just to throw one more in there, DeMar DeRozan. The Spurs are actually pretty good so far, and DeMar is currently posting 20 points, 6 assists. I mean, he still can't really shoot threes, but he's really kind of evolved into almost a point forward in some regards. So I think DeMar's another guy who's going to be left off that list, but he's certainly going to garner some votes.
That is it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening. We'll see you guys next time.